things have been happening in Chinese video games, and more stuff's been happening for Activision Blizzard. Let's get into this. Hi, I'm Prob.
And I am Rob.
And welcome to News Trash, where we take an extended look at the more interesting happenings from the last 7 days from the world of video games.
Yes, and before we get into the news and the release schedule of what's coming up in the next week, please do click subscribe and that notification bell to stay up to date with all of our videos. And also, if any of the stories are just utter nonsense or we make a comment, which you have to call us out on, please do comment below as well. That's what it's there for, to insult people. That's the YouTube thing, isn't it? Anyhow, we have some video games that are coming out in the next week or so. So, coming out on the 28th, we have Chernobylite on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, which, yeah, I'm not so sold on that one. It's Chernobyl set squad-based survival game. Ghost Runner on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, which I tried the demo of, and it's just, I'm not a fan. Super fast-paced ninja runner where you got to kill everybody and one hit kills them, one hit kills you. Not a fan.
Sorry. What kills them?
Hit.
You didn't say that.
Also on the 28th, a new survival horror In Sound Mind on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X. And rounding out on the 28th, we have Lemnis Gate. It's turn-based shooter, New World, Amazon's MMO, and DLC for Outer Wilds. Very, very popular Outer Wilds. On the 29th, Guardians of Hylor and Insurgency Sandstorm, which is on PS4 and Xbox. The sole release on the 30th is Aeon Drive. Then on the 30th, we have Bonfire Peaks, Bubble Bubba 4 Friends, Darksiders 3 in the Switch, Demon's Skin and Hot Wheels Unleashed, Industria on the PC, Oculus VR Jurassic Park game called Aftermath Part 2, The Last Friends and Rogue Lords, and on October the 1st, it's FIFA 22 on all formats, including your local bookies.
I mean, it sounds like a packed release schedule, but it's not really, is it?
It's one of those, everybody knows those people who say a lot, but they're not actually saying anything. They just talk a lot, but they're saying nothing. This is a release week, which is basically that.
Yeah.
There's a lot there, but there's nothing.
I mean, there's not really much I'd be interested in playing there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll play FIFA 22 when it becomes part of Game Pass. But beyond that, nothing. I
honestly, even FIFA at the moment isn't really sparking anything. As much as I like playing my football games, not really sparking anything.
Yeah, I'll just play it when I get Game Pass, when it comes from Game Pass, and that's it.
So what is the pick of the week, then?
There isn't one.
There isn't one.
Sometimes it has to be like that because, it's just such a middle-of-the-road, bang average, nothing week. Next week, following this, is a bit more feature-packed, but this week it's just a giant meh.
It sounds it, totally. Yeah. Speaking of giant meh, gonna launch straight in with the latest from Activision Blizzard. The saga continues. It rolls on. It gets worse.
Yeah, just a comment here. We have talked about this a lot, and it gets kind of tiring talking about it. But we'll only bring it up when it gets something that happens is really bad. We're not just the latest episode. This is this is a mid-season finale. Or even a season finale.
Oh, well, this is the thing. I don't know yet. I don't know whether it's mid-season or a season finale, but several things have happened for Activision Blizzard, which is kind of why we're a bit front-heavy with them. See, the executive producer of Overwatch has become the latest high-profile departure from Activision Blizzard. And even though the studio has said the game is in the final stages of production, the executive producer, Chaco Sonny, has left. And you're like, okay, right, so he's joined Blizzard in 2016. He's come from Santa Monica Studios, and he spent 2 years as the production director on Overwatch and 3 years as the executive producer. Now he's gone. And apparently it's to take some time off Now, somebody as high profile as that, as the executive producer for Overwatch, one of their flagship games.
You can't just take time off.
No. So I'm not going to read anything into that because there's all sorts you could read into that at the moment, but I would just say...
You know, in horror movies, when you see it's an abandoned place and you see the rats are all running away from something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Presenting that without content material.
Speaking of...
So what are all the rats running away from? What's happening over there?
See, it's interesting you say that, and it makes for a very intriguing, somewhat inaccurate segue, but very intriguing segue nonetheless. Claire Hart, who is Blizzard's chief legal officer, has resigned amid all the lawsuits.
Yeah, it's an interesting segue, that, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know about the accuracy, but interesting segue nonetheless that you made there. Now, she was the chief legal officer and the senior vice president for the company. She resigned. She spent over 3 years at Blizzard, and she directed the global legal and public policy team for the studio, while also working for Activision Blizzard, according to her LinkedIn profile. Now, she's officially gone. And so this is all come at a time when the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission for the American government, not the state of California, I should point out. This is a federal agency. So when you're talking federal, you're talking on the level of the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. Maybe not as... legalistic as those, but this is a full-blown federal legal entity, and they are investigating Activision Blizzard's response to sexual misconduct in the workplace harassment allegations, all sorts of other things like that. This is an official federal investigation, so this goes way, way, way above the Department for Fair Employment and Housing investigation in California.
Yeah.
And
Activision are done. Activision Blizzard are done.
That's not the only investigation that has recently been opened, because another one by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is also reportedly looking into allegations against Activision Blizzard. And you just you start thinking, my God, you've already facing court cases on the state level. Now you're being investigated on a national federal level by not one, but possibly 2 different organizations.
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before we start seeing the mothballing of Activision Blizzard and the selling off of individual companies.
Yeah.
Only a matter of time, because all of this... Yeah. What was the term? It was a specific term used in what was that movie called? Minority Report. Well, it said there's too much evidence here.
Yeah.
This is like a bounty of evidence.
Yeah.
How often does this happen?
No.
Never. Well, it happens once now.
Yeah, it's happened once now.
It's Activision Blizzard. There's just too much here, and there's too much guilt, and there's too much corruption, and there's too much going badly wrong. There is no way to salvage any sort of reputation for Activision Blizzard. Yeah. There are tainted goods. I can't even think of a fitting comparison point because there isn't one. This is just really, really bad.
Yeah. And one of the issues the SEC is looking into is whether Activision Blizzard had an obligation to inform investors about the investigation into workplace and gender pay gap allegations before it was made public by the California DFEH lawsuit, which was filed in July. Now, at the time, Activision Blizzard was saying that it had been extremely cooperative with the DFEH throughout their investigation, and they called the complaint inaccurate, distorted, rushed, and in many cases false, most of which has not been proven to be correct since. Okay? Some Activision Blizzard investors clearly disagree with the company's stance, which is why all of these extra lawsuits and investigations are being raised, because the investors are saying, well, hang on, you never told any of us about all this stuff, and this is clearly a risk to our investments and to our money.
Yeah, I think this beginning at the end is when you start seeing investors pulling out.
Yeah.
And that seems like it's only a matter of time now.
Yeah. See, this is where it gets... I don't know. There's a weird, twisted irony to all of this, right? And that comes from Mr. Kotick himself. Now,
Yes.
After those two extra investigations, the SEC and the equal employment investigations, right? Bobby Kotick has come forward and says, "We are deeply committed to making Activision Blizzard one of the best, most inclusive places to work anywhere. There is absolutely no place anywhere in our company for discrimination, harassment, or unequal treatment of any kind," says the man who gave himself a how big a bonus was it?
Well, let's just put it this way. He is a multi-millionaire, one of the richest people in video games, who uniformly gets 20, 30 million bonuses, and he gets little side things. You know, he's a very, very, very rich man. And opposite all of this happening, Activision Blizzard are constantly prior to all this happening anyway, we're constantly laying off staff. And when you're laying off staff and giving your chief executive all of these ridiculous bonuses, well, let's just say, if the hypocrisy was an energy form, he'd have discovered a universe by now with that power source.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, according to Bobby Kotick, they continue to work in good faith with regulators to address and resolve past workplace issues. They also continue to move ahead with their own initiatives to ensure that they are the best place to work. They remain committed to addressing all workplace issues in a forthright and prompt manner. Does that include, I have to ask, shredding documents for meetings and various things like that? Because according to the SEC investigation, what they want to look at are minutes of meetings, email records, phone conversation transcripts, that sort of thing. They want to look at all of this stuff.
I can't remember a company collapsing and falling apart in such a legal storm as this, maybe ever. I can't think of a befitting example, really.
The irony is, I mean, we all thought if any company was going to be in the line of fire and basically face being hung, drawn, and quartered like Activision Blizzard are getting, it was going to be EA for the loot boxes. For the loot boxes, if anything else, right? If nothing else, it would have been for the loot boxes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but give it time.
Yeah.
Just because it's happening to Activision doesn't mean it won't happen to EA too.
No, I'm not saying that it won't happen. I'm just saying that we all thought EA was going to be first of all the companies. Any intelligent, reasonable observer of video games would have put their money on EA being first in the line of fire.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because EA, apparently they've changed their tune on loot boxes. They're doing the loot box previews and things like that. Sounds like they've turned a corner, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use a figure of speech here. I mean, usually people say bull, but I don't think bulls are big enough, so I'm going to go with polar bear, because it's about big enough to sum up that.
See,
no, but elephant. There you go. There's the big. That's fitting.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. EA, when EA announced that they were doing loot box previews and they were going to phase out loot boxes and stuff like that, you and I both kind of said to each other, that doesn't sound like EA. They must have something else in the pipeline. And lo and behold, we were kind of right. See, EA bought a company called Playdemic recently. Now, Playdemic do a little mobile game called Golf Clash. And what EA have said is that they've built a powerful mobile-first team inside EA with talented game makers, a portfolio of powerful IP, technology, expertise, and global scale. And they're bringing that together with Playdemic's successful track record of creating innovative gameplay and strong live services. It's going to be a catalyst for some amazing new experiences, and they're going to be looking forward to leveraging that to their sports games IPs. Now, Playdemic, as I said, made a game called Golf Clash, and some of the comments for that game make for interesting reading. One of them, for example, which is only from a couple of days ago, says, "You win 2 to 3 matches in a row and not gain any experience points, but every time you lose, you lose them. They're purposely setting you up against players, bots, that spend money on balls with unreal performance in an attempt to get you to purchase gems. The tournaments are ridiculous." Another one that's that again from this month. Do not download. Excuse, but this game is an absolute joke. It had baited me and so many others into spending money by rigging the gameplay, random server connection issues when in the middle of a match, bunker shots when clearly the ball guide was not aimed there, and perfect, whatever. Most of the time it's pulling left, will not let me pull the ball right. I mean, basically a lot of the comments are talking about how the game is rigged to help make you pay for in-game purchases to help you improve your game.
I'd say the game is broken and it'll only become fixed if you pay.
Yeah, basically. And see, this is the thing. Over the past few months, we've worked hard. This is from EA. Over the past few months, we've worked hard to understand Playdemic's culture and expertise to identify how best to combine our talents to create new experiences for even broader audiences. We've been so impressed by the way Playdemic have built Golf Clash, the community, the live service, metagame, and economy, and we're excited to learn from them.
All right, Cyril Sneer. I see what you're talking about here.
You see where this is going, don't you?
All right, Mr. Burns, slow down. You know.
I mean, it is... You remember that episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns wants everyone to use electricity, so he puts the sunblocker over the town?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
This is that, isn't it?
It basically is.
Anyway, moving on to another thing that's been happening recently is the whole Chinese crackdown on video games. China is really, really, really knuckling down on video games, which is weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's an industry which is the biggest entertainment industry on the planet, so it's like the license to print money effectively.
Yeah.
You can use it as there's so much bad PR and bad reputation around the world and perception about what China is and what it isn't around the world. Video games also be a great opportunity to do, good PR for China. Make the world have a good impression of China around the world and video game players, the people, younger people.
Yeah.
But we're not doing that.
No.
Yeah, sure not doing that.
See, this is the thing, right? When you talk about Chinese video games and you talk about... when you look at something like Black Myth Wukong, yeah?
Yeah, there was also that new one. I can't remember what it was called, but it's basically...
Wuchang Fallen Feathers.
Yeah. That too.
See, I wasn't as impressed by Wuchang Fallen Feathers. One of the reasons for that is just... there's a thing that that annoys me a little bit when it comes to period-based video games, and that's the immediate thing that struck me about that game was the fact that it's like a Chinese game, but I would have liked more traditional weaponry kind of thing.
Just something came to my mind, and it sums up so many. There's like roaming third-person action-adventure games.
Yeah.
There's two types. There's normal roaming third-person action-adventure games where it's like lots of juggling and heavy combat. And there's dat-ass action-adventure games. Which
Wuchang is, basically. Yeah.
And Wuchang is a dat-ass game. So is Bayonetta. Bayonetta is a dat-ass.
Yeah, it's the thing is, both of those pale in comparison to that one that was on the PlayStation.
Yeah, Project Eve is like...
Yeah, Project Eve is... that shiny ass.
It's a silly way to frame it, but that's what these games are. But that's not what the story is. This is about... Yeah.
Well, I mean...
The Chinese games getting a fair shot and the country not wanting that, maybe.
Well, this is the thing. According to this new... according to this new rules, there's like over 200 Chinese games firms that have reportedly vowed to self-regulate in the face of new restrictions issued by the state. And this is from the state-backed Gaming Association, and it suggests firms use facial recognition to identify minors. Now, I can understand, given the history of video games and given that video game addiction is a real thing, right?
Yes.
I can understand from the perspective of the Chinese state, they don't want minors, they don't want young kids to become addicted to video games. They class video games as a very serious addictive thing, and so they want to monitor that and basically heavily penalize companies that they perceive as being in the same category as drug dealers. I'm not saying that that's the case for video games developers, but You know,
it's very dramatic, but it's just Chinese political stance on him.
well, I'd say it's the Chinese government's need to control the lives of the population, which is a lot more extreme than you see in the West, but it does exist in the West. So one of the things that I find hilarious is when people in the West go, "Oh no, the Chinese government is not able to do that." And you're like, you do realize your government does the same thing, only on it's a bit more subtle about it.
Yeah, we're not getting to that because
yeah, I mean,
once you open the door with me in this country in politics, you can't really shut it.
All I'm saying is there's a reason why things like the BBFC exist in the UK, for example.
Oh, it's much more insidious and deeper than that, but let's move on.
That's just the tip of the iceberg. It goes, the rabbit hole goes much deeper than that, but that's just the doorway. Anyway, so yeah, 200 video game companies have signed up to self-regulate under these new regulations that the Chinese government have issued, and that's all well and good. But on the back of that, the Chinese government have launched a new website which encourages the public to report games that are violating the new restrictions. Now,
it's gamifying whistleblowing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, this is the kind of thing that the Chinese government has become very, very adept at doing. And one of the reasons why it's become so good at that is because there are a lot of younger people in mainland China who are very, very nationalistic. Okay.
Yeah, it's true anywhere in the world, though. I think this is the thing that's going to happen, honestly. I think the Chinese government and the Chinese philosophy is going to drive Chinese developers out of China.
Well, I think that might happen. I think a more likely scenario.
I'm thinking long term here. There's only so much a company can take before it says, you know what, being here isn't good for our company. We have to move into another country and produce games from there.
I think, there's that, but I think the other thing that's probably going to happen, and I don't see it happening in the near future, but it's the kind of thing that you can't really stand against no matter how strong your government is, and that's just time, and technology being the thing that it is, will eventually overcome just about everything else. People will eventually... I mean, what you've got to understand about the way that China looks at the world, or the Chinese government looks at the world, they have a very distorted view. They don't want certain things to be known because...
Yeah, they don't have a free internet. Their internet is incredibly censored.
Yeah. But what happens when people go... people are finally exposed to the internet from the rest of the world and see how the rest of the world sees their country?
Yeah.
There'll basically be denial, outright refusal. There may be hatred and there may be anger, but eventually, in order to understand how the rest of the world thinks of China, you have to read what the rest of the world thinks of China. Do you see what I mean? You can't not you can't not go through that stage, and those things will happen eventually. Anyway, enough soapboxing.
Yeah, maybe. I just think the companies will move. So from Taiwan to Japan, they'll move to. Like Australia, New Zealand, they'll move to other places around that general area.
Yeah.
I'll see that happening first and foremost, honestly.
Yeah. Anyway, we did an episode about China, about the sleeping titan that is Chinese video games. I am curious to see how this is all going to play out, and we are always interested in what other people have to say about this. So let us know what you think about the whole situation with Chinese video games in the comments below.
Right, but that's all we have time for in part 1 of News Trash. Please click subscribe and that notification bell to stay up to date with all the things that we do. Also, like this video, comment below with your thoughts on any of the things that we said. I assume you have feelings about what we were saying about the Chinese video game industry. If you like what we do, you can also check out our Patreon. Coming up on the end of the month, we have the latest edition of Director's Lottery, a random chance movie podcast in which we put a load of movie makers in a big random bag, pick a number and do 2 of their movies. So check out our Patreon to find out which director we did and get involved over there. But until next time, where we'll be doing 2 episodes of News Trash every week, we're just sort of figuring out the kinks. Thank you very, very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.